Hi, my name's Barsley. I run a practice called the Environmental Design Studio. We're a social venture set up to inform and inspire adaptation and resilience to a changing climate. We do this through design, research and training initiatives. These are undertaken at a variety of different scales and in relation to both new build and existing contexts. Over the years, I've also worked on a number of Research Council funded studies into flood risk and flood resilience, such as the flood narrative study that we ran with Public Health England and the Environment Agency. Since 2018, I've been delivering training for the RIBA on flood resilient design and wrote a book for them, which is called Retrofitting for Flood Resilience, a guide to building and community design. My family's business has been directly impacted by flooding, and unfortunately in my time working in and around different parts of the world, I've also been in and experienced floods on a number of occasions, and so I do know firsthand just how dangerous floodwater can be. Over the last 15 years, I've noticed a huge change in the way in which the industry works with flood risk management, particularly, I suppose, with the resolution in which we can map and model flooding and forecast flood events. But also, we've moved away from a mindset of solely flood defence, flood protection, into considering catchment-wide strategies, integrated water management, and approaches of working with natural processes. And really, I suppose there's a recognition that there's not one single approach to flooding that will solve the problem everywhere, and that there's a myriad of different interventions that can be used, but they do need to be site-specific. Looking at the state of play now as well, there are also many more success stories and kind of proven evidence of the success of adaptation. And so we brought a huge amount of these together in the book, but also through the Hazard and Hope series that we're developing, we're building on that to show that there are ways people can adapt and people can dramatically affect the consequences that floods can have on their homes and on their businesses. In terms of lessons learned, I think that collaboration is absolutely key, and multidisciplinary experience coming together to look at the challenge of flood risk, because things like the Property Flood Resilience Roundtable has been fantastic at that, and it's brought together experts from a variety of different fields, public and private sector, academia, and sort of bringing together those discussions which I don't think were quite happening in the same way before. And what it's allowed is actually very frank dialogues between different industries and sectors to say, well, we'll need to see this evidence to be sure that we can move forward with this, and have you considered this? And I think that those conversations are really crucial. So collaboration is key, and I think that there's a huge amount of success within that and within the code of practice that's been developed as an output of the roundtable work. Regarding the importance and need for property flood resilience, I think it's crucial to recognise that it doesn't just directly reduce the impacts of damages to your buildings, and actually the presence and performance of those measures can actually drastically alter some of the indirect impacts and intangible and tangible consequences. So you may not have to move out of your home into temporary accommodation, and you can stay within the community. Your kids, your family won't be disrupted from their daily lives in the same way. And so thinking about making your home flood resilient or your business flood resilience is a larger issue than just considering the damage to the building itself. It's the knock-on ripple of impacts that it can have on your own life. Through the research and work I've been doing and the huge amount of community engagement, it's been very clear that actually resilient design and property flood resilience can have a massive impact on people's well-being. When we think about the role of flood resilience in society, I think it's really important to recognise that the frequency and severity of flood events is set to increase. So it is urgent that people become flood literate and consider how they might adapt their home to make it more flood resilient. And you don't have to live anywhere near a river or sea to be at risk of flooding. Flash floods and surface water flooding from rainfall events can happen sporadically and in one part of a town or city, but other areas could be completely unaffected. And so when you think of that variety of conditions and the potential residual risk that your home may be at, it's so important to follow the different steps in the code of practice, because it provides a roadmap to help us understand the flood risk context, the setup of our properties and buildings, what options might be available to help us adapt and in a very site-specific and contextual way, but also to be confident that those measures are being fitted, installed, managed and maintained over time in an appropriate way, that you can have confidence that they're going to be able to work and be repaired, recovered and reinstated in an appropriate way. So really, I think that there's a huge amount to be positive about with the way in which we're now approaching flood risk and resilient design. And also that it can be used as a mechanism and catalyst to help us improve and adapt the built and natural environment in so many other ways. We want to make our cities healthier, greener, more beautiful spaces and places. And so if this is a useful process to help us get there, then I think that should be championed.